When everything is wrong, when everything is wrong, you probably have one or two experiences that pop into your mind there when you hear that. And why do I bring this up? Because I think there's a lot of value in revisiting that. And there might be some people that won't even click on this video because of the title, because of this topic. And I get that. I get that. I actually recognize that in myself over the recent days here. It can be a scary thing to revisit. I get that. I once had a panic attack that lasted for 5 days. For 5 whole days, everything was wrong, and I felt incapable. Period. Incapable. Unable to eat, unable to show emotions, laugh, share a joke. I felt disabled, and I thought that this was my life now. Living in the midst of this mental chaos, this thing that happened. Not eating, unable to get even a bite of the fruits of life. I couldn't feel anything besides this terror inside of me. And it was deep. And this panic attack was triggered by something that I smoked, interestingly enough. I was studying abroad, and the nightly routine came around with my friends there in Copenhagen, Denmark. Sat down the night at the end of the night, rolled up a spliff, and we were capping the night. That was what we did. And upon finishing that spliff, right? Upon finishing that spliff, I felt a wave run through my head. And instantly, I knew something was wrong with that feeling. I knew something was wrong with that feeling. It was different. And it started at my forehead. It started at my forehead, and it settled at the back of my head, like a ball of energy being placed there. It was heavy. My mind began to race on what just happened. It was beyond discomfort. It was war. I went to my dorm that night thinking that a sleep always helps with these things, right? Sleep always helps. But I woke up that next morning and I still felt the added weight with me. It was an uncomfortable thing to have with me, still waking up there. I called my mom. I called my mom on the phone and I told her that there was a war in my head. And I can't even imagine what that sounded like on the other end. When I arrived home to the United States from Denmark, that's when the real beast was unleashed. And I can't overemphasize that. In the meantime, I was finishing up my time studying abroad in Denmark for 6 weeks, incredible friends, going back to the United States, and really trying to maintain my sanity through this feeling. And as the jet lag settled in the United States, as I arrived home and the jet lag settled in and the high wore off from just being home, that inner ball of energy was released. And everything was wrong. Everything was wrong. I was emotionally rampant. And I was also partially torn by this incredible experience that I just had, these people that I just met, and flying away from all that. So there was these different emotions going on. And for 5 days, everything everything was wrong for these 5 days. And I can't explain the depth in that, the overthinking, the mind racing, the mental warfare. The moment that I knew something improved after these 5 days was right after I had this nap, which was interesting to me. Because for 5 days I was caught up in this realm, and the negative thoughts would just be compounding on one another. And I had this nap where, funny enough, my mom actually read me a book while I was laying in bed. And part of me thinks now it was because it was just enough to get my mind off of the things I was thinking about. It was just enough to get my mind out of that realm for a minute. And I fell asleep. And I woke up, and it was like a switch was flipped. Like something switched. And everything wasn't great now, but it was manageable. I got this sense like, okay, something happened. Something got a little better. And I feel different now. I feel like I can manage this. I can feel some different emotions now. Oh, oh. I remember I remember waking up and I'm like, okay, okay. I can do this. Oh shit. That was it. That was all I needed. But for the next 6 months, for more than 6 months after this, I gradually came down from that edge. I gradually came down from that edge. And to try to explain this is difficult, but it was like being overstimulated would bring me back to that place. And I've explained this to some other people, and I've heard some similar experiences, maybe. But for that first day after waking up from that nap, if there was too much movement, too much noise, too much visual stimulus, whatever it was like it was too much again. So slowly, over those 6 months, I gradually came down from that. And at this time in 2019, I started to have an increased interest in meditation at this time. And this experience really, really set me in that direction a little more. But the interesting thing is, when I would close my eyes to meditate, I thought after having this experience, I should get into some of this work a little deeper. So I would sit down and meditate and close my eyes, and I would actually fall back into that depth. I would sit down and close my eyes, and it was like I was falling back into that depth, that scary place. And it was a scary feeling. So how is that possible? I began to think some of these things. What is this? What was that? What was that? There was something to explore there. My many beliefs began to shatter after this time. This indescribable experience. I would try to explain this experience to people, and it would just be almost pointless because I couldn't match the magnitude in my words. So that was a little frustrating. Every time I tried to explain what happened to people, I would absorb that experience again and feel the leftover remnants still within me. And speaking about it now, there's still some of that absorption happening, right? And getting back into that experience, feeling that again. And this is why I think revisiting that time for yourself can be valuable. So how did this thing happen? These are the questions. How did this thing happen? What is this? What was that? What does that mean? Why? 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 Why did it happen, right? Why? I remember speaking with a therapist shortly after this, and he helped me pick apart some thoughts that I was having, which I thought was interesting. I had never experienced that before this. I said to him the one time, I thought I was mentally stronger than this. That's what I said. And he asked me, is it about being mentally strong? Ah, yeah. That's a good point. That's a good point. That's something to think about for sure. Because maybe it's not about that. But I really hope you enjoyed this story here. One thing I do want to say is, if you enjoy listening to these topics and you enjoy the things that I speak about on this channel here with life design, I would be thrilled to hear more from you. So having said that, I will leave a link down below in the description for you to book a free call with me if you'd like to speak more on these topics. Maybe you feel like you don't have a space to talk about these things, or if you just want to have a chat, I'm completely down. So I'll leave that link down below. I am also on Substack, which is an email newsletter, which I'll also leave down below, which is the writing form for these videos. So really appreciate you making it this far if you have, and I would love to hear the experiences that come up for you after watching a video like this.